All right, let's call the meeting to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so before we begin tonight, I'd like to offer a moment of silence for those who lost their lives at the hands of a white supremacist last Saturday in the city of Buffalo. If we could all just observe a moment of silence for 30 seconds. Thank you. So I also wanted to thank Councilmember Michael Rossi for being here tonight. She recently lost a very close member of her family. It just shows her commitment to the town. This just happened a few days earlier, so thank you for being here tonight, Roksha. Let's move into the approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the April 12th, 2022 work session and the special meeting on April 19th, the regular meeting?
Ms. Scott? Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Can I get, is there any public comment on any of the agenda items? Oh. Yes, please state your name.
Nancy Bryan, I would like to comment on item 1, the Chamber of Commerce ARPA funding request. I would certainly encourage this board to support that. The Chamber is here to support businesses, and it certainly is something that I know everyone is interested and concerned about, so I would strongly encourage this board to act on that. I'm kind of sad that I didn't see it as a resolution, but the next steps is very hopeful, and I certainly hope that this board will give this grant money to the Chamber.
Thank you.
Famous Mailer Avenue. I wrote to you on April 19th a very appreciative letter. Really the first administration I feel that hasn't kicked the issue down the road. I really appreciate that. We've got one sign going in. I had written a 4-page letter back to both you and you know, the two of you running for office. I would just like to say that I would be glad, and I don't want to get into discussion, I'd loan the money for the second sign, you know, interest free for 5 years, or give it to folks that want to do GoFundMe, because I think when we get both in, we may find we don't need speed tables or anything else. And you guys approved the idea conceptually and don't have the money. I'm not a big shot money guy, but I'll take the money out and loan it. It would be my pleasure. I'd like to get it back, but if I can't, I just think it's that important. And I made 10 of these. This is a sign I put up on my property. These are kids walking around the neighborhood. These will be here if anybody wants them. I only made 10 of them. That's what I want to say. And I would be glad to do that, you know.
Thank you.
Yep.
Brendan?
So I have something to comment based on an issue that was brought up at the previous meeting. I don't know if this is the proper slot, but
Yeah, sure.
so it was the concern brought up about Ms. Michael Rossi's involvement with the tennis camp on town property. And first of all, I just want to say I completely understand the concerns that are brought up. Any governmental organization not only has to avoid ethical conflicts, but also need to avoid any appearance of those conflicts. So that is something I'm very sympathetic to. But I also know that that is a sliding scale. If we're talking about optics, that's always going to be in the eye of the beholder. And in an age where cynicism is just so extraordinarily deep, and I literally had somebody a few weeks ago, I was selling Girl Scout cookies with my 6-year-old, telling me that they raised the prices because Girl Scouts are ripping them off. I mean, there's literally nothing that people will not be cynical about. So there's always going to be a cynical interpretation of anything. And I think in this case, just because there are those who would say that her involvement in a tennis camp poses some optical problems, I don't think that we should empower the most cynical voices in our community to make those kinds of decisions. The truth is, there is no ethical conflict. She had this position prior to the position on the council, the voters were well aware of it, and voted for her with that in mind. So it's not like she's using the position to create that opportunity or change that opportunity to her benefit in any way. And anecdotally, I can say, my children benefit from it. They love the program, and if it were to go away, I think paradoxically, that would be the thing that could create a lot of cynicism in itself. If somebody runs for a council position on the platform of bringing more youth sports or activities for young families, and her election is the very thing that makes those opportunities go away. I think there's certainly not only some optics risk, but actual lost opportunities that would present. So I just want to voice my strong support for her continued involvement in that camp. And I will also say I respectfully would like to depart early because I have some other obligations. I know that that's a rude thing to do in most of these meetings, but thank you everybody for listening, and appreciate the time.
Thank you. Lucia?
I'm Felicia Ledgeby, 73 Miller Avenue. I just wanted to get some clarification from last meeting about the recreation program fees and group rentals. I'm kind of concerned about, as a taxpayer, having to, I mean, I understand the pool, I know there's a fee, you gotta pay the lifeguard, et cetera, but for 60-some years that I've lived here, to have to pay to use the tennis courts, the basketball courts, the pavilion, or the grounds, it just seems unclear to me as to why we are going to maybe impose that on taxpayers now. And also, I'm not clear on, you know, the town has a recreation department, so I'm not clear as to where the break is and how it goes between what the town is doing with tennis or any other sport versus whatever non-town camps, clinics, et cetera. So if possible, I'd like some clarity on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, sure. Helen?
Helen Bunn, 190 Main Street. I am not here to be cynical. I'm here because my name and my business was brought up at the last meeting. And I'm here to clarify that I never rented the pool. I bought passes. So if everybody that bought a pass rented the pool, so be it. I'm not here pro or against people renting. I'm here to clear the air that I did not rent the pool. It was not a secret deal. You saw me at the pool. I can't hide 20 or 30 kids at the pool. Everybody knew I was there. In the beginning, I paid individual for each child that came. Then it was suggested that I make one fee, and it was not by Supervisor Randazzo. I've been there using the pool over 10 years, which means there's other supervisors involved. So I didn't do anything secret, illegal, unethical, despicable. I didn't do any of those things. So whatever you're gonna do, you're gonna do. But I want to clear the air that I never rented the pool, and I've always given back more to this town than I have ever taken. So I think I rented $2,000 is 10 families, is 50 kids that could use the pool every day, as long as they want. I came there 3 or 4 days a week for maybe 2 hours a day. So I think you made money on those passes. So I just want that out there. I'm not being cynical. I'm just saying the things that were said about me and my business last week is a personal attack on me. And if you're gonna make private camps do swimming with the town in the village camps, you might want to rethink that, because that's kind of dangerous. And if I have to pay a different fee for lifeguards and maintenance of a pool, that's discrimination against me. And it's an end run to get to where you want to get to rent those tennis camps, those courts. That's what it is. Call it what it is. I'm not cynical. I'm being honest and open with you guys. So don't use my name again.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, a couple things I just want to mention. I think last week you talked about a new software program for the budget accounting, and you sort of tried to imply, you held up papers and said, you know, we're doing it by paper, we got to get rid of this, get up in time. So just for your information, the budget and accounting for the town of Cornwall has been computerized for 35 years. Software programs have been updated and added, and if there's a new program, that's great. That's what you should do to help. But the question that I have is, There's a software program for the bookkeeping. You're also talking about a software program for highway and other departments, totaling probably about $15,000, $16,000. There's no money in the budget for those. They have not been budgeted. I mean, every month you talk about how there's no money in the budget. These are not essential things. You've got people here from Mailer Avenue that have been trying to accomplish things on Mailer Avenue, and you've told them time and time again, there's no money in the budget. So I don't understand how you can just throw in $16,000 in software that's not budgeted, which could easily be just put into your next year's budget. The second item I want to talk about is the retaining the engineer to draw up plans for the new pool. That could very well be in 4 or 5 years, you said, which is fine. There's no question the pool's 70 years old. The only thing I would say is before you hire an engineer, there's been no discussion by the town board or the community as to what they'd like to see if the pool is replaced. Bigger pool, different location, different kind of water activities. So I would urge you not to award any contract to the engineer until you have some scope or concept as to what the new facility would look like. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anybody else? Sir?
Yeah, Peter Ireland. If I could just give a quick comment about some of the comments last week for Ms. Michael Rossi. I'm here today to voice my support for the character and integrity of town board member and tennis coach Raksha Michael Rossi. Last week there were a few comments, so I figured I might as well step up and tell you a little bit about my experience. My wife and I have 2 daughters in Cornwall Elementary School, and we're enrolled in Raksha's tennis programs over the past couple of years. My girls have repeatedly and enthusiastically requested that we keep signing them up so they can take lessons over and over from her again. She's good at what she does, people like it, and they want it to continue. I should stop there since realistically that's all the reinforcement we should need to find a way to continue supporting her coaching efforts in parallel with her board member responsibilities. But I'm going to go on just for a little bit to drive home my point. During her tennis camps, Ms. Michael Rossi coordinates groups of high school students to assist and support programs, so she's reaching out and making an effort to actively include community members during the time she's spending on the town courts. I know you all also probably all know she's an accredited member of the United States Professional Tennis Association and has been teaching tennis for almost 10 years and been playing for almost 20. Last year she won an award from the United States Tennis Association as a Volunteer of the Year for her region, our region. She even ran a tennis clinic for the Cornwall School District PE teachers to break down the concepts of teaching tennis to make it more accessible for teachers to teach it in their classrooms. So she's so good at this stuff that she teaches the teachers. We should value that. I know I do. I like that my girls have relatively easy access to learn a sport from a massively qualified expert that actually equips them for life. Learning things like the value of doing hard work, digging in and persevering when the going gets tough, or how to focus on doing better next time even if you don't win. Ms. Michael Rossi has been in the community for 20 years and put down roots. She understands the town, the people, and the issues that we're faced with. And she's interested in making a difference, in helping the community, as manifested by her running and then being successfully elected to this board. Her integrity, tenacity, empathy, and perseverance, both on and off the tennis court, are behaviors that are worth teaching our kids and us grown-ups a little bit about, for that matter. It's a winning formula. We just have to get out of the way and let her deliver these life lessons using her tennis programs as that vehicle. It's not a conflict. It's not a problem. It's actually a blessing and a benefit to have her here wearing both hats, contributing her time to both public service and coaching. She shouldn't be prevented from doing either of these things. Cornwall's lucky to have her. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? No? Okay. All right, so first up, we have the Chamber of Commerce ARPA funding request. So next steps on this, just from talking to the other board members, I believe they wanted a little more time to consider the request. So we will be taking that up at the June work session, to hopefully act on it at a special meeting afterwards. Next up, we have a resolution for a change order for the Cornwall Sewer District 1 I&I surcharge mitigation project. So this is to actually, we've been asked by the town engineer to add an additional 200 cubic yards of rock excavation, which is an additional cost, and we've also asked for Whispering Pines, the contractor, has asked for an extension of time due to delays, and so this change order would authorize both of those. So if I could get a motion to waive the reading of the resolution?
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Now therefore be resolved as follows, that the town board of the town of Cornwall approves the change order annexed here 2 and authorizes the town's consulting engineer to direct the contractor to proceed with the change, that the supervisor is authorized to execute the change order on behalf of the town of Cornwall. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Okay, next up, I have a resolution. It's an amendment to the engineering agreement for the Elm Street Sidewalks and Replacement Project. Can I get a motion to waive the reading of the resolution?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Now therefore be resolved as follows, that the town board of the town of Cornwall approves the amendment to the owner-engineer agreement annexed here 2, that the supervisor is authorized to execute the amendment to the owner-engineer agreement on behalf of the town of Cornwall. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. All right, so next up, I have a resolution. It's an engineering services agreement for the Beaver Dam Lake and Firth Cliff Heights Sewer District. So as you're aware, we received roughly $100,000 towards the cost of this project. This was earlier in the year, and this would just basically authorize the engineering costs to do the project and to enter into an agreement with MAG. So if I could get a motion to waive the reading of the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Whereas the town board wishes to enter into the proposed agreement with MAG, now therefore be resolved as follows. That the town board hereby agrees to enter into the annexed agreement with MAG, that the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute the same and all documents necessary to effectuate the terms therein. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Okay, so next up I have a resolution. It's an engineering services agreement for the Continental Road culvert replacement. So this is the engineering work that was to design the plans to replace the culvert bridge that was washed out during Hurricane Ida. So this is the engineering cost towards that project. We will be, FEMA will be reimbursing us for costs on that project up to 90%, but this is just a resolution for that engineering agreement. Can I get a motion to waive the reading of the resolution?
So moved.
Second. You just said you want to read?
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Now therefore be resolved as follows, that the town board hereby agrees to enter into an annexed agreement with MAG, that the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute the same and all documents necessary to effectuate the terms therein. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. All right, so next up, I have a resolution for the engineering agreement, engineering services agreement for the town pool replacement evaluation. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. All right, next up, I have a resolution for the joint public bidding of the sidewalk replacement and water main replacement. Can I get a motion to waive the reading of the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Now therefore it be resolved as follows, that the town board hereby puts out for public bid the said sidewalk replacement project under the said joint notice for public bids. and that the joint notice for public bids shall be due upon a date and time to be mutually agreed upon by the town supervisor and the mayor of the village in accordance with the terms of the intermunicipal agreement. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
This is just gonna be an open-ended, without a price. Pass that over.
Okay.
Or we're just gonna get permission to lock in a 2-year term at the best price tomorrow morning.
Fair enough. So let's amend it to read, the town hereby accepts, town board shall, instead of hereby, accept the recommendation of M&R to enter into a 1-year agreement for possession of,
2 years.
2-year agreement for the provision of electrical services by the low quote on May, what's tomorrow, the 18th?
The 19th, or the 18th, yeah,
On May 18th,
sure,
at the quoted rate.
sure. So really quickly, so this is a resolution to authorize the board to approve an agreement to enter into a 2-year agreement with M&R Energy Resources to purchase the lowest bid electrical rate on May 18th. So the way the market works, we have to wait. We have rates right now, but depending on, they may not be good in the morning, so we have to wait until the market opens. And so tomorrow morning, first thing, once we get the rates, we're going to sign the agreement, the lowest price. We're gonna get 4 or 5 bids. And so we're just getting an authorization to go, to basically sign this for 2 years at the lowest bid. So can I get, whereas M&R Energy Resources Corporation, as an energy resources broker, has provided the town with quotes for the provision of electrical power, and whereas the town wishes to accept the lowest quote for a period of 2 years on May 18th, now therefore be resolved as follows, that the town board hereby accepts the recommendation of M&R to enter into a 2-year agreement for the provision of electrical services with the lowest quoted.
If I could?
Yeah,
you
sorry.
mind? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
No,
I
Steve.
just gave it to you.
This says 1 year.
Right, that's,
Yeah,
that's a prior.
This all came in last minute.
So what it should read, paragraph 1 is, that the town board shall accept the recommendation of M&R to enter into a 2-year agreement for provision of electrical services by the low quote on May 18th at the quoted rate. And then you need the second paragraph.
Okay. That the town supervisor is authorized to execute into any documents necessary to put the agreement into effect. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Okay. So next up, we have a resolution for ClearGov budgeting software proposal. Can I get a motion or to waive the reading of the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Now therefore be resolved as follows, that the town board hereby agrees to accept the ClearGov proposal and further agrees to enter into an agreement with ClearGov, and that the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute any and all documents necessary to complete the transaction. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes, and I'm basing a lot on my conversation with Pam Wood, our bookkeeper, who really expressed to have these tools to do her budgeting. So that's why I'm supporting it.
Thank you.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Okay, next up I have a resolution for the Orange County Community Development Block Grant for FY 2023. Whereas the town has determined to apply for an FY 2023 Orange County Community Development Block Grant, and whereas the town board has held a public hearing for input from the community as to what the town should apply for under the program, and whereas the town board has determined to submit an application for the said grant seeking funds in the amount of $375,000 for the Elm Street and Maple Street ADA sidewalks replacement project, which encompasses sidewalk replacement on Maple Street from Willow Ave to Canterbury Avenue, Canterbury Avenue from Maple Street to Elm Street, and Elm Street from Oak Street to Quaker Avenue. Now therefore be resolved as follows, that the town board does hereby approve submission of an application for the said FY 2023 CDBG municipal grant, and that MHE Engineering, DPC, is authorized to prepare and submit an application for the said grant, and that the town supervisor is authorized to sign any documents necessary for the said application. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Okay. Next up, we have a resolution for fair housing. Can I get a motion to approve the reading of the resolution?
So moved.
Sorry, to waive the reading of the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. So where can I pick this up
I'm
from?
afraid you have to go from now therefore be it resolved.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of a haul.
Now therefore be resolved as follows, that within available resources, the town of Cornwall will assist all persons who felt they have been discriminated under one of the aforementioned categories to seek equity under federal and state laws by filing a complaint with the New York State Human Rights Law and the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development as appropriate, and be it further resolved that the town of Cornwall shall publicize this resolution through this publicity shall cause owners of real estate, developers, and builders to become aware of their respective responsibilities and the rights under the federal fair housing law, the New York State Human Rights Law, and any local laws or ordinance, and be it further resolved that the town of Cornwall will, at a minimum, include but not be included the printing and publicizing of the resolution, a fair housing public notice, and other applicable fair housing information through local media, community contacts, and placement on the Town of Cornwall website and in other social media. 2, distribution of posters, flyers, and any other means which will bring to the attention of those affected the knowledge of their respective responsibilities and rights concerning equal opportunity housing. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. All right. So next up, I have a resolution for the Main Street parking study. The lowest bidder of the three, of the RFP that we put out last December, because we told the residents that we were gonna, finally start looking into this project, and we believed that the parking study was key to making the right determinations. The lowest bidder for this was Crichton Manning Engineering LLP at a cost of roughly $27,000 for all of the work. And so I do think it's time to act. Residents are waiting for us to act, and I do think we need the information from this study to make the right determinations. So I would ask the board to please, support this. Discussion, is there any questions, comments on this?
Is this in the budget for this year?
No.
So what I would say is,
I'm just asking. Money-wise.
so we did not budget for the study. We have a line that
Okay.
we use, and there are things that we have to do to move the town forward. And so this is one of those that we have to do. So, having spoken to the bookkeeper, Pam, we have 2 ways that we can pay for this. This can come from the general fund, and this can come from ARPA. We do have funds in ARPA to be able to pay for this.
Is that what you're proposing?
So we don't have to decide now. We can decide, once we enter into the agreement, we can decide how we're going to pay for it, either the general fund or our ARPA. At a later date, we can come back and we can say that we are going to move ARPA funds from the ARPA account into the general fund to pay for this. That is something we're able to do. Is there any other questions? Okay. Okay, so, yes? No, so, whereas the town of Cornwall has issued a request for proposals for a parking study agreement in the town of Cornwall, and whereas the town has received a proposal for Crichton Manning Engineering LLP, and whereas the town board wishes to accept the said proposal and enter into such agreement with Crichton Manning Engineering LLP, now therefore be resolved as follows. That the town board accepts the proposal submitted by Crichton Manning Engineering LLP, and that upon submission of Crichton Manning Engineering LLP of a parking study agreement, setting forth the terms and conditions listed in the RFP for the same in a form acceptable to the town attorney, the supervisor is authorized to sign the parking study agreement. Can I get a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Okay, so next up, we have a resolution to schedule a public hearing for the dark rooms special use permit. And so I just want to say that, you know, at this point in time, you know, Mr. Ferrara, he's provided ample information about his project. He's given the signed parking agreement. The building inspector has provided a definition of a discotheque and has determined that Mr. Ferrara meets that definition. He has also provided a memo stating that under the code, Mr. Ferrara is allowed to have 2 different uses in his space as long as the more stringent version of the fire code is adhered to. You know, as board members are aware, this is really the first step before he can even open his doors. He needs to get the special use permit, then he goes back to the planning board for site plan approval, and then he has to go and implement the stricter fire code measures that Gary's gonna make him have to put in place before he can open. And so this isn't, you know, scheduling the hearing is not approving, it's just allowing the public to weigh in on the project. And you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, we really can't not schedule the public hearing. You know, he has some, you know, this is one of these things where the public has the right to weigh in on this. It's not, you know, we can't really keep deferring a public hearing unless we give a reason, you know, to the applicant. So I would say that if we're not going to schedule a public hearing tonight, I would ask board members that don't want to schedule it to please provide in writing to the town attorney what your issues are, because we will be sending a letter to the applicant with those reasons. So if you cannot support that tonight, please give Steve the reasons, and we will send that off to the property owner.
Oh, Mr. Vincent is here this evening?
Seeing the,
Hi. I have a series of questions because in our conversations, I had expressed some questions in terms of this proposal since it's come before this board, is it 4 times? My question is, Mr. Vincent, what is actually different from the original proposals that were made? You know, what is actually, what kind of documentation or additional documentation has come to the building department?
At this point in time, he has indicated he would like to get approval for a discotheque.
Okay.
That would allow him to proceed under the town board to obtain his liquor permit. And that's his primary goal. Whereas previously, he could, what Steve's shaking his head down.
Liquor permit has nothing to do with it, Gary. He's allowed to submit to proceed as a discotheque. Doesn't need a liquor permit.
My understanding under the code, that if he wants to do discotheque, he needs town board approval.
That's right.
Okay, and part of his proposal is attempting to secure a liquor approval.
Well, he said that, but it has nothing to do with his approval.
has nothing to do with this
Okay,
application.
that's my understanding.
Right, and that's what's unclear to me. And then, have any kind of renderings or any kind of plans or working with any professionals have been provided to the building department?
At this point in time, I provided him with comments of the materials that will need to be on the construction plans at that point in time when he's ready to do it, so he could do a simultaneous review approval, so as to not wait until he's done with town board and planning board and then go to his architect. So I've given him direction of what needs to be on the plan, so he can work on that now, as he's going through the motions with the town board, and then subsequently with the planning board.
Right, because all I see are like 4 pictures of the interior, and that really doesn't constitute any kind of,
Nope, but I have provided him written comments
Yes,
as to
you
what
did.
will
you
be
did.
required to help him, assist him.
And now that you've given me an idea on this, I think a way that we could assist him is looking at perhaps a town board and a planning board, like a joint meeting, so that we're all on the same page. We cannot do that.
That's not how this.
Why,
It's
why
just
not?
not procedurally the way this works. I mean, you can hold
So
a
we're gonna
joint meeting to
just
discuss
give a
this, but
special permit without really complete information.
We don't have purview over site plan approval.
you do not have purview of a site plan. If you want a floor plan or something submitted to review before you schedule a public hearing, that's fine. But you really can't get into the site plan issues. It's just not before the board.
We're not lead agency on that.
Well,
I
Well, I'm saying
understand
as far
that,
as-
but
no secret review involved. It's a type 2 action.
I understand that, but again, with the zone, right, we're changing the use of the property.
Well, you're
Are
granting
we doing
approval
that?
for something that's allowed under zoning, subject to grant a special approval. You're not granting a zoning change or an amendment to the zoning code.
I really wish he was here because I really would like to know a little bit more about this because the parking is still vague. You know, I get the time from 6 PM to 12 AM daily is utilize the spaces. Notwithstanding, the studio shall not utilize parking spaces more than 12 times annually unless otherwise agreed to in writing by the school. So is this real, did you see this, Mr. Gavin?
This is the parking,
Yeah.
signed parking agreement that says he can use parking arrangement for no more than 12 instances in a year. So he couldn't have any more than 12 events in a year.
But the issue before the board right now is not the sufficiency of the application, it's whether you're gonna hold a public hearing on it or not. And if you have a pretty good idea of what it is he wants to do, if the public can tell what it is he's requesting, you can open the public hearing. You're entitled to ask for more information at the public hearing. And if you're not satisfied with the answers, you just hold the public hearing open for another month and say, need you to submit A and B and C, so that we're in a position to make an informed decision.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm hoping to do for the public. I want to make sure all this is like clear, and to me, I'm not clear on this, and I've been sitting in a number of these meetings.
All right, well, as Josh said, if there are particular items that you
I can
feel
put
he
in
would
writing.
send me
Okay.
an email, we'll send a letter to him. And,
No, if he was here, maybe he could, could clear it up. Now, have there been, I'm sorry, Mr. Vincent, are you still there? Okay. Have there been any violations or any kind of citations?
Josh, can you tell me, I don't have the document in front of me, but I did
Has there
issue
been?
a notice of violation when it first came to my attention.
Yes,
Okay.
so there is a notice of violation, and I actually spoke to the town attorney about this, and just a previous
When was the date on that?
It is, it looks like June 29th, 2020. And so since this violation, so it's been almost 2 years
Right.
since he's had a violation, and since he has received payment for holding parties in a space. So he's complied with what we have asked of him, which was to go and seek approvals from the town in order to get the proper permits to run his business. He's done that. And so, in talking to the town attorney, just having a previous violation is not enough. It can be considered in not granting, but it can't be the only reason why. I mean, there are plenty of people in the town of Cornwall, for instance, Gary would know about this, that, put in, finished rooms, they go to sell their house, and then they come and they seek to get the proper, permit for that. Imagine if we never granted them a permit and they put this addition on 30 years ago. We always, as long as they go and do what they have to do, we rectify it and we let them move on. And so
Okay.
I don't know why we want to allow
Well-
just one violation to forever prevent someone from getting something.
No, may I finish?
Yes.
Because prior to this,
Yep.
am I correct? Because the date that he actually came before the town board was before this, correct? I think I was first in office, it was probably, maybe January of 2020?
He didn't come until sometime in
Are you sure?
2020. I mean, I have the dates in the violations right
Okay,
there.
I'm just actually getting the information, because I know prior to that, he had been doing it for quite some time, correct?
We can only go on what the instance says. We can't talk about speculative. We can talk about what is cited by the order of the remedy of violation. We
I
can't
got
talk in speculation.
Okay, I'm asking because that was something that was discussed months before.
And the parking lot, people.
And the parking was gonna be provided, yeah.
Does he have
Does he have,
permission from the owner of the property or someone who's leasing it?
it's like really not.
It's the owner of the Montessori school. She owns the property, parking lot.
Would it be possible that members of the board, if they have any further questions, directly point them to Mr. Ferrara and get all the questions answered?
Yeah, I would say the best way to proceed would be for board members to provide in writing to the town attorney so that we may send a letter to Mr. Ferrara so that we can be very clear about what exactly he's,
Okay.
what he needs. We
That's
shouldn't
fine.
keep spinning wheels here. So let's,
Well, no, I mean, he's not here to give the answers. If he did, then it would be a different story. He's not here to answer my questions.
well, look, in all fairness, I believe a few days ago, I sent an email saying if we're not prepared to vote on this, please submit in writing by Tuesday to the town attorney any issues with the
Right,
application.
and I still needed to meet with the building inspector. And I had a very brief conversation with him today.
Okay, well,
So I know that I don't wanna say we're in a hurry to do something, but, it seems that way.
no, we're definitely not in a hurry.
All right, I wanna do
but-
this right, so I know
Sure.
that you may not be happy with it.
So let's put
but
it
I
in
do
writing
feel-
because we need to be clear to applicants and not
Yes.
waste their time and keep
Absolutely.
deferring to the town attorney who will then prepare a letter to Mr. Ferrara as to what exactly is needed
Okay.
in order to schedule a public hearing.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay, so next up, we have recreation program fees and group rentals. Let me just, you should have the fees,
Yeah, from the work session of last week.
yeah, you should have those fees. And so I know, there were some, just quickly to answer some questions from from folks during public comment. So the pool fees are the pool fees, I think we kind of discussed those. The group rental rates for the pool fees. So what I would say is that actually in terms of for the camps, I am very dead set on that there's going to be a camp time in the morning. That's when the camps go, because we don't want to have camps going other times of the day, and that was very clear from talking to the rec department and also parents in the community. So, the way we sort of lay that out, whereas we can have, if there are private camps that are going to be going, if they provide proof of passes that were purchased for each kid, either individual or family, if they don't provide proof of the pass, then the camp can pay the daily fee for each, camper that they have. If that doesn't work, for instance, if that's not gonna work for them, then the only other way to go is to have additional hours in the afternoon. But depending on the number of kids that are coming, yes, we may have to close the pool. And if we're gonna go that way, then said camp would have to pick up the cost of operating the pool for that time period. That's how I'm proposing to do it this year. In terms of the tennis courts and the pavilion group rental rates, these fees are only gonna be charged for folks that want to reserve. If you're gonna be using it normal times on like a as-come, used basis, there's no fees. But if you're gonna be looking to reserve time and you wanna set it aside to lock it in so that you have that time, yes, I do think that you should provide some type of payment to the town to reserve it. That's what I would propose for that. And then sort of just getting to, some of the issues that we've had in the past. I do think it's important, and this sort of gets into the whole, the issue, that's been raised about Councilmember Michael Rossi about teaching. And so I think you know, in both cases, it's not an issue that said business or individual wants to reserve the facilities or use the facility, you know, in running their business. It's that it needs to be properly disclosed. That's what needs to happen. You know, it needs to happen on, you know, on ethics disclosure forms. The public needs to be made aware. The board needs to know about it. And so I think that's really the only issue that we're sort of talking about. And so this kind of gets into the whole ethics issue here, is that, you know, some of the things I'm going to be proposing, you know, one is going to be working with the town attorney on making some changes to the ethics disclosure forms. I don't think it goes far enough to capture certain arrangements and, you know, when you have certain town board members or employees or board members that have certain, you know, dealings related to their business with the town, we're not capturing all that on the ethics disclosure forms. You know, so I think we need to know if a council member is going to be paying the town for use of a, you know, rec facility, you know, what's that amount? What are the terms? I think that stuff needs to be disclosed, you know, going forward. And so, you know, just so you all know, you know, and I know I've told each of you, as of tomorrow morning, prominently on the town website, there is going to be an icon now that says disclosure forms, officers of the town, Roksha, myself, the town clerk, and the deputy supervisor. I believe my other board members, colleagues are going to follow me, but our documents will be up on the website as of tomorrow. And all of the, you know, all of the arrangements that, you know, Roksha may have, those are fully disclosed. In fact, we have an opinion letter from the town attorney that basically says what she's doing is perfectly allowed. We have that. We have the, you know, we have all of the dates and times that she's going to be operating the camp. That is fully disclosed. It's on the website. And so I really hope that this puts an end to this, you know, what I would just call silliness. And so it's all out there for the public to see. If the public, if other board members have issues with it, they can reach out directly to the town attorney. I'm sure he'll be happy to explain how he arrived at the opinion that he wrote. It's fully disclosed. And so, you know, in terms of this, you know, we're just sort of moving on from this now. I don't know if board members have any questions about anything I just said.
I do.
Yes?
Okay. So I will be I don't want to be the cynical, the critical. Yeah, keep going. Board member, but from the moment that this was proposed, I did raise a concern about the perceived conflict of interest. And there's a lot of things that I cannot divulge because, you know, there are things in closed session. But I'm just concerned about how the storyline or the dialogue changed, because when we first discussed this, and I was quite honest, and I just said a function of elected officials are to represent our constituents. And I am concerned about the integrity of the board. I don't want anyone saying, oh, well, this person's doing this and this person's making money on this. Because I do hold that very important in terms of the integrity of the board. We were told initially by the town attorney that the most money, a limit to what an elected official could make would be $750 per calendar year. Am I getting the chronology correct?
That would be if there was a contract with the town. There's
Okay.
no contract.
Right, I'm just kind of going through the chronology of what we discussed. You know, could earn in another capacity with the town. And then, I guess there might be a miscommunication, but then on the Town of Cornwall Facebook page, there's a posting for a tennis instructor for $35 an hour. This exceeds the hourly rate of the majority of our town employees. And I found that, I raised my concerns about that as well. It's just the message it's sending out to our employees that, you know, as far as the value. And, you know, I as an educator too, I mean, I have a degree and I tutor and there's different fees that I charge as well. But again, I would not be comfortable coming on town property and tutoring students and, you know, and holding the pavilion. It just to me, it didn't seem to be right. I guess I was hoping that we were working to rectify the concerns, where I thought we were actually going to hire an outside instructor. When I was younger, they actually hired summer help, and kids got a summer job, and they actually taught, tennis to students, and they gave them a job. I guess my understanding was, I really didn't know that this was still progressing, because in April, we approved the Skyhawks tennis camp program, so I thought the Skyhawks were actually going to be doing this. I don't hear anything further about it, and again, I thought that, the $750, you deserve everything you get as far as your professional fees. I thought you were not going to pursue it. Again, the final thing is, then the proposal comes up again, and now we're informed as a town board that we don't have the authority to approve this. And I thought, that's interesting, because we approve camps, we approve, like the lacrosse, the use of town property all the time. Why this time? Why were we as a town board excluded? Again, then I find out, and again, I find out from constituents that a flyer advertising this was actually, while we're having these discussions, is being distributed. So I was concerned. So I'm going to just make my points because I do think it's important to be on the record. I asked why the dialogue changed, how much time of our attorney, our board has been spent with all the research, revisions, discussions. There was considerable time attempting to find a way around this. And I do feel, as a board member, we vote on everything, and we really should have voted on this because that's what the democratic process is.
Certainly didn't feel that way about previous circumstances.
I don't know what you're even talking about, but anyhow, we can talk about this. My other question is, and this point was brought up and I thought about it, an elected official is actually competing with our 2 full-time employees. They have a full-time job running town recreation programs here, and their responsibilities are to propose, develop, and implement recreation programs for our residents. And again, as a town board member, we've always voted on it, and I keep going back to this. And to be told as a board member that we have no authority, it just defies logic to me, and what kind of precedent does that establish now? And that's all I have to say on that.
So first I'm going to say this circumstance is no different than what happened in previous circumstances for decades.
But that is then, and this is now.
So-
and we're the board
well,
of integrity.
I'm going to let Steve answer that because he put the legal opinion together.
but it
And let me just
changed.
add, Steve put the legal opinion
It
together.
changed.
While he's the attorney, I'm going to let Steve answer that. And, just like I would, if any members of the public have issues with this, you can direct them at the town attorney. He put this together. So there are no,
Under
so,
the-
Steve? As far as this being allowed?
Very simply, the question was a matter of ethics. And there's nothing in state law which prohibits a private individual, even if they're on the governing board, from using a public court or public space, just like anybody else. And anybody else could, if they were so inclined, give a tennis lesson or give a chess lesson or whatever it is in the park in return for a fee, if it's held open to everyone. And this tennis courts are held open to everyone. So ethically, there's no state prohibition on it. There's no prohibition in the town code. That's the way local ethics work. If
We're
there's no
talking 5
prohibition on
hours,
it,
right, we're talking 5 hours that.
there's
those
nothing
courts-
in the town code that prohibits it, and the town holds its
All right.
courts open for those periods of time.
And in fact, I would also add, in terms of others coming in and doing this, if Sportsplex is interested in running a program,
Well, that's what
They
it
should-
originally was.
they should come and they should reach out to me. If other residents want to do what Ms. Michael Rossi's doing, they are certainly welcome to reach out to the town rec department and to reserve the courts to do that, like is very common at other municipal courts throughout the state. They are certainly welcome to do that.
Do
Sportsplex
they know that?
or any other business, they are allowed to do that.
Well, I know
It is not
some-
my responsibility to reach out to businesses and say, please come do this for us. They are businesses, I don't go out and, so they are businesses, and they are allowed to conduct their businesses as they see fit. But if they come to the
Right.
town, we're not gonna turn them down. In fact, more is better. I would welcome businesses coming, because more tennis programming is better, more services are, for the youth are better. So,
But again, we're talking, and again, very talented, I am not disagreeing with that. What I'm saying is, it is a business. So, a business is being run out of on town property by an elected official. And I'm looking at standards of conduct. No town officer, town board member, town employee, or town consultant shall have any interest, financial or otherwise, direct or indirect, or engage in any business or transaction or professional activity, or incur any obligation by nature which is in conflict or might reasonably tend to conflict the proper discharge of his duties of public interest. Now, the last sentence, I'm bringing up, it's our recreation department. It's a public interest. We have a recreation department. Is this going to be less than what the recreation department would actually charge? Or is it more? Because I don't know. I don't have the numbers. There's no information provided whatsoever. When we go and we look at the Skyhawks and all the other things, we know how much the camp's going to cost. We know the prices of these things. We know nothing because we have no authority. And that's all, I'll close on that, but
so what I
I'm
would,
disappointed that the town board, all the things that we approve over the years, that we have no authority in this matter.
so again, if there are further issues, please direct them to the town attorney, and if there are,
And the Association of Towns.
you're welcome to
Yeah.
do what you would like to do, Ms. Scott. Okay, so, but what we do need to do here, though, is, let's start going through the pool hours and fees. So I think that we at least need to approve the 2022 pool hours and fees, so we can at least open the pool and we can start to have
I agree
some.
with that.
So if I could get a voice vote to approve the pool hours and fees for 2022.
Second. Is that a motion?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so of course, we don't. All in favor? Yes? Yes.
I think we said it.
Okay, so I just want to make sure. Okay, so then, what about the other, we also have the tennis courts and pavilion group rental rates. Should we hold off on this? Do we want a voice vote on this?
I still, and forget the tennis for a moment.
Okay,
I'm saying, I don't want to become a place where people are renting it for, weddings, bar mitzvahs, and funerals, and things like that. Like, this is a public space. We do have funds when people apply for building permits, right? And isn't that money supposed to be going to the recreation fund?
that money covers the cost of the service in that department,
Right.
to provide for that.
So
So
we
the
have
fees-
that, right, so we have that. So my question is, and I asked for this and I didn't get anything yet from you, is I asked you, like, how much are we spending in terms of any of these activities, people who are renting it, cleaning up, because you had voiced that there were people who were using it, and we've had to use more resources. I don't have any information for that.
I will gladly provide you resource for that, but what I
Thank
would-
you.
Okay, so, so next up, we have Mailer Avenue next steps. So, we have a memo from Tom Gershwin, the highway superintendent, and we have a memo from Chief Todd Hazard, basically on this topic. And so if you read through both of these, it's pretty clear that both believe that we do not have enough data right now to make a determination as to whether or not we can move forward on implementing speed tables. There are just too many stakeholders that have to have a say in this. We need more data. I mean, for instance, the school district, they need to weigh in.
Right.
The bus companies, they need to weigh in. You know, there are any number of stakeholders. We can't just go redesign a road without more data and without getting the buy-in from the other stakeholders. And so that's, you know, those are sort of the next steps, you know, would be getting that, you know, collecting that data, getting that buy-in. But, you know, I just think, you know, as of right now, I think until we get that, I don't know that we can really move forward on, you know, putting speed tables in place. We have the sign. You know, I believe the board, you know, agrees with me that we should collect more data. Right now, we don't have the data to support putting speed tables in. And so before we do that, we need other stakeholders to agree with that. And so I don't know if, you know, if any other board members have, you know, anything else to add to that, if they have any questions, but I think that's sort of where we're at. I think we're in a data collecting mode, and we're also in the mode where we need to go out and we need to have conversations with the school district, the bus company, we need to talk to others. There's also this piece of state legislation that is currently, it's in both the Senate and the Assembly, which would basically, if it passes and is, you know, put, you know, signed into law, it would allow municipalities to, on its own by resolution, to lower the speed limit from 30 to 25. So that's probably our best path to getting the speed limit lowered, unless, you know, somehow the data is going to change when we're collecting it. But I might say, you know, that if we put our energy towards advocacy with our state elected officials, maybe we can get that to pass in an election year. So that might be, you know, something to work on.
Right, and to piggyback on what you just said, Councilwoman Michael Rossi had made the suggestion of contacting Senator Skoufis's office, and I do know that some members have already reached out to him. So let's see what he can do to assist us.
All right, so let's get. All right, so next up, we have KMO pollution control. I received the email today from Mike Tremper. You know, he's the head of KMO pollution. They're the ones that run our sewer plants. And so, you know, I'm just going to read this real quick. This is about the BD Terrace pump station. So, as we know, during wet weather, the flows at the Firth Cliff sewage treatment plant exceeds the Speedies permit. The town is currently proceeding with an infiltration program to help reduce the flows. The setup of the collection system for Firth Cliff sewer plant is such that the majority of flow gravity feeds to the BD Terrace pump station and then pumped to the treatment plant. Several years ago, KMO recommended the town consider a new pump station to replace BD Terrace pump station. At the time, there was no funding. Since then, we've replaced the pumps, control system, and a generator will soon be installed. So the operation of the station has been improved. However, there is no getting around the fact that the main pump station is a retrofit to a failed airlift station. The wet well size and depth is substandard, valves and check valves are inaccessible and outdated. KMO would recommend again that the town engineer review this station for a possible upgrade, replacement after the completion of the I&I. So basically, after we do the I&I, we need to study and possibly implement a upgrade or full replacement of the BD Terrace pump station. So this is what KMO is recommending. Sean is certainly aware of this, and he's going to weigh in on this as well, you know, in terms of timing on all this. But I just thought you know, should know that this is what came from KMO today. So next up, we have FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grant Program project updates. So I sort of have good news and bad news on this. So the Continental project has been given the go-ahead to be reviewed by FEMA, but the Hasbrook Drainage Improvement Construction Grant has been denied.
I'm sorry, say that again?
It's been denied. So the Hasbrook Drainage Project Construction Grant, it's been denied. They turned it down. They said that it was basically, we have to go back and we have to sort of bring it, basically, the cost can't be more than, it's something to do with, it's a required benefit cost ratio of 1.0. So it exceeded the benefit cost ratio, and so they want us to go back, work with FEMA, resubmit. They say this takes a couple times to get these construction grants, so it is somewhat of a setback, I will say. I mean, at least good news is that Congressman Maloney has sent on this project as one of his 15 community projects to the Appropriations Committee. We're not gonna know about that until October. So, yeah, it's just one of the, but, I mean, so, you know, we're gonna work with the engineer to resubmit this construction grant. We have the House Appropriations, you know, project in there. And if worst case scenario, look, the town is at some point gonna have to do this, and that will require bonding to do it. But we can't keep, you know, kicking this can down the road. I mean, it's just, you know, it's been a decade of every time they get 4, 5, 6 inches of rain, they've got all this damage. I mean, just hundreds of homes.
More than a decade.
Yeah, sorry, more than a decade. Yeah, I'm just going back to 3 storms, back to, you know, Irene in 2011. So that's on that front. So next, I was Mr. Jerome Gilman from 3 Cathy Court. He brought an item to my attention earlier in the week. The intersection of Beeks Road and Orrs Mills Road. You know, there have been some severe accidents there over the years, and you know, they would like us to do a traffic study of that road. It is a county road, so if, in talking to the police chief, if we, you know, it's really only, the county would have to sort of, you know, address this. We'd have to pay for the study, and if, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, we've done this in the past.
Done in the past, I think we always pay for the study.
Yeah.
You can reach out to them and verify study.
Yeah, I was gonna do that, but yeah, so basically they're requesting a study. They're hoping that we can do something to address that. And so in this case, there is data of accidents and severe accidents. I don't believe there's been any fatalities.
No, there's none to my knowledge.
Yeah.
He's been there longer than I've been here, so maybe before I got here, I don't know.
Yeah, but we're certainly gonna look into it. I'm gonna reach out to the county. We'll start, you know, down the road of looking into this. And so this, you know, this will be on the work session for June. I'll see what I can find out in that time period. Next up, we have an email from the Dietz family. As you know, Chris Dietz, he passed away from COVID in December of 2021. He received an email from his sister Jennifer. They are asking that the town consider allowing them to place a bench somewhere in the park in his, you know, his memory. You know, this is something that the town board has to approve, so I would just, you know, ask, you know, we'll have this on the agenda, we can discuss it further.
Yeah, you're gonna need a formal offer of dedication.
Yeah.
You're gonna need specs if the board's willing to entertain it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is not just a yes and it's done. So I'll put. Alright, so next up, we have, you know, just to remind everybody that the American Legion is having the annual Memorial Day Parade. That is gonna be at 10 a.m. on Monday, May 30th. For those that are marching, you basically start at the usual parade positions, which is down on Payson and COH. Just also want to let everyone know that we have Shred Day Electronics Recycling, which is scheduled for Saturday, June 11th here at Town Hall. That's in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce, and looks like the Cornwall Lions Club, the Cornwall Police Station, they will be taking extra prescription drugs that people are looking to dispose.
Are you leading us to,
Oh, no, this is already
approval
approved.
for next?
It's already approved, yeah, we did this a couple months ago.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just, you know, putting it out there so people. Okay, so next up, we have a training request for the town clerk, for Leandra Gallagher and Jen McCormick to attend the annual Niagara School Training in Albany on June 13th and 14th. The cost of registration is $30 per person. Hotel accommodations are $332.50, for which one night, which includes their meals. Can I get a motion to approve?
So,
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. All right, so next up, we have committee reports. Rocha, do you have anything to report? Okay. All right, so, Ms. Scott?
I'll keep it brief.
Okay.
I promise. So I know, actually, Josh, for the Moodna Creek Intermunicipal Watershed Committee, you and I actually had the opportunity to meet with Travis Ewald
Oh.
and our county engineer, Eric Benenga. And I guess what I'm looking for you is, did they give you any updates? I know they've done the study and they were going to reach out to the town to talk about what rehabilitation.
They have not
They
done
have-
so yet. I will reach out the second
Okay.
I get, yeah.
Well, you don't have to do it.
Yeah.
I was gonna,
Yeah.
I just, okay. Or I would email and I do, you know, whatever you want. And then, Josh, you were on Supervisor Wojciechowski and Mr. Gaba and I were on, this is for lighting, with Real Term, and we had to discuss the next steps, the audits, and getting the Central Hudson to actually develop the acquisition documents. We did invite them as a town board to come to our next work session to actually do a presentation now that the audit's done. And I think that'll be good for the public to hear that again. The Senior Advisory Committee met on the 16th. Basically, they finalized the survey, and I guess I'd just like to ask you, should the chairperson reach out to the chamber about having a table at the car show? All they want to do is basically sit there and have a survey. How do you want me to do that, or have them do it?
So, I mean,
I
you
know
know,
we
look,
talked about it.
it's technically, you know, even though it's a chamber event, it is town
On town
property. I mean,
property.
I mean, I think we're free to,
Okay.
if we can find an appropriate space that doesn't.
Should I'll reach out to Dominic?
Yeah, why don't you reach out to Dominic?
Okay. Yeah, I think he was the contact.
Yeah, he's the one that's working on the show for the chamber.
All right, and, I think, that's basically it. Oh, and the Main Street beautification committee, we met also on the 16th. We're gonna meet again on the 23rd, and, you know, I let them know that if the bollard planners come in, to be ready with what proposed, you know, the proposals for planting, to bring it forward to the board.
Okay.
And that's it.
Terry?
The highway department for the month of April, the assistant sanitation with call-outs and resignations. They took plow trucks apart from the winter work, washing these trucks, plows, and salt spreaders with salt neutralizer. They greased and stored salt spreaders for summer, started spring streets swipe townwide. Cold patch potholes townwide. They did ditching work at Jackson Avenue, Taylor Road, and Old West Point Road. They vacuumed out catch basins townwide, trimmed trees on Old West Point Road and Wilson Place, removed blacktop, installed drainage, and prepped the Bridge Street Park for new blacktop, removed blacktop from pad at Town Hall for band pavilion construction, repaired blacktop at Munger Cottage, installed school bus stop ahead sign on Beeks Road, removed stump and brush on Quaker by the Meeting House, replaced 60 feet of 30-inch drainage pipe under Cedar Lane, cleaned up down trees on Shore Road and Creamery Hill Road. They blacktop 49 Mine Hill driveway apron from pipe replacement in March, and they blacktopped a hit list of needed work townwide. Mechanic service, a John Deere road mower, blacktop roller, and F550. Mechanic repair GPS on 2018 Packard, vacuum motor on street sweeper, major exhaust leak with fumes entering cab on 2014 International tandem truck. We have some old trucks. And a tail light on 2020 F350. The building department issued 40 permits, 11 certificates of compliance, 4 certificates of occupancy. There were 40 on-site inspections, 5 complaints were investigated, 1 stop work order was issued, 2 notices of violation were handed out. They took in $9,823 in permit fees and $5,500 for municipal searches, 15 of them. They took in $300 for renewal permits. There was 1 planning board project opened, a total of 7 to date, and no new zoning board projects. That's all
Okay, great. So for part of my presentation, I've asked the deputy supervisor to put together a budget presentation, which he's going to do right now. I believe he has some handouts.
Thank you. I have some visual aids. Councilwoman Scott, before I forget, if your group would like to table at Riverfest, they're welcome.
Oh, thank you, I'll have them reach out to you.
Do you have a copy of this, Judge?
Yes, I do.
Steve? I have a few extras for the audience if you'd like them. It's really pretty boring stuff. Here, I'll give them all to you. And I'm going to read this because otherwise I'm going to miss something. The supervisor asked me to prepare a brief presentation on the budget so that the board members get the public can get a sense of where we are before embarking on the budget process. Excuse me, I requested some data from Pam to assist in preparing for this discussion, which is really just about numbers, and I promise to keep it brief. I'd like to share a couple of charts with you that demonstrate graphically where we've been over the last 5 years, where we are currently, and where we might be headed. If you look at the first chart, titled Cornwall Expenditures, you can see that budget increases year to year have been about 2.5%. The amount raised by taxes increased less than $1 million from 2017 to 2021. Revenue from other sources have been similarly stable from a low of $2.79 million in 2021 to $3.23 million this year. Additionally, the amount of fund balance used increased gradually until this year's budget, when it jumped from $1.05 million to $2.76 million, reducing the amount to be raised by taxes to $7.79 million. If you look at the next chart, you can see the source of funds by category. From 2017 until this year, the amount to be raised by taxes was approximately 70%, and between 21 and 25% from other sources. The percentage from fund balance was between 5 and 8% until this year, when it jumps to 20%, or $2.76 million. And finally, the final chart shows you this year's budget and what may, I'm going to emphasize may because I'm not making any recommendations here, but what may be necessary to maintain the level of services next year in terms of either increased taxes or reductions. And clearly this could have been avoided had the previous board adopted the preliminary budget that was proposed in October of 2021. So you're going to have some decisions to make over the next year. And as we all know, decisions have consequences. Thank you.
And so what I would just add to this is, last week, the bookkeeper and I met with Munistat, our bond advisors, and they're really concerned that we're going to get a ratings call sometime in the next year, because when you deplete, fund balances, your savings account like this, they're concerned. And so they said it's very likely we're going to get a ratings call. The other issue is, should we seek to borrow more than $1 million, we will get a ratings call. And so that's very concerning given, some of the equipment purchases we're going to be seeking to do, different borrowing, borrowing we may have to do, if we ever have to make an emergency purchase, if we ever have to buy property, if we ever have to do different things and we have to go over that limit, this is gonna be an issue. And so, just sort of wanna raise that. And the other thing they said is one of the best things that we can do to prevent and to limit that from happening is to actually grow our fund balance, bring it back to where it was. And that would prevent, future negative ratings calls and downgrades if we have an adequate fund balance and that we properly tax in order to pay for services. That's what was said to me last week. And so those are some of the things that, I will be looking to do as we prepare the budget for 2023. Questions?
You know what I forgot, Josh, is that the IMA.
Yes.
Can you, the status of that? Because there was actually a deadline of May 19th.
So,
I'm sorry, I wanted
that,
to.
yeah, so that was just to get, that was to I believe get free iPads, in exchange
Oh,
for,
so-
yeah, no, it was
okay.
it was really nothing, and in fact,
Okay.
they really want us to do it, so I'm sure if we did it, they would still give us free
Yeah,
iPads.
okay,
But I just, so just in terms of that one issue, everyone talks about the cost of that.
right,
It's gonna be split between the town and the village, and then by 3 separate departments in KMO.
exactly.
It's gonna save us money, it's gonna help us manage the town, it's not going to be, and look, this is something that the town and village DPWs and KMO, they want to move in this direction. They think it's gonna save money, and they have the money within, they believe they have the money within their budgets, within lines in their departmental budgets to pay for this.
Okay.
And so that's, yeah.
No, I
But no,
think it's
it'll
a good
definitely-
idea, and I agree with you, I just was wondering on the status of this because it's been sitting there.
Well, like with
Yeah,
anything,
I know.
we have to do IMAs for everything we seek to do
Exactly.
with the village, so it takes time. All right, so just real quick, I'm just gonna go over the police report. For the month of April, we had 787 calls for service, we had 7,206 miles driven, we had 92 traffic and appearance tickets issued, 4 parking tickets issued, 21 motor vehicle accidents reported, 1 arrest made, 1 911 hang-up or misdial, 17 alarm calls, 14 ambulance requests, wow, 12 animal complaints,
Everybody's out.
1 criminal mischief, 12 disabled vehicles, 2 domestic violence incidents, 5 parking complaints, 10 suspicious vehicle or persons, 9 house checks, 15 assist other agencies. Chief, is that mostly us responding down in the village, or is that other?
No, I think we brought this up before. It could be just a coding error sometimes when they say
Okay.
assist other agency. It could be Central Hudson, it could be the fire department. It's not necessarily us assisting Cornwall.
I'm making a note, coding error.
And then even when we assist Cornwall and Hudson, that could be as simple as a guy in a midnight shift shows up at his traffic stop and he pulls a number here, it's gonna show up as an assist where he wasn't needed, but it's nice if somebody's pulled over at 2 in the morning to have a backup to swing by, so. The numbers can kind of say whatever you want sometimes if you want to.
Sure.
I also want to thank the chief and Sergeant Gebert for helping with the lighting inventory. They actually did a survey of all the lights that they're actually out, and I sent them all to Central Hudson. There was quite an extensive list, and I really appreciate you doing that.
So I don't know if I've done this yet, because this may have happened in between meetings, or maybe I missed the last meeting, but as you know, we had this, fire in this 4-unit building over on the corner of Harold and Harris Lane that displaced the 4 families, and so I just want to say that, the police department, I believe we had officers on the scene within, minutes. They went in the house to try to, I believe, to find folks. Tommy responded, I believe he was involved. We had the building inspector, he was involved. Of course, Kovac, New Windsor EMS, and of course the fire departments who put it out within minutes. So I just want to say, it really could have been quite bad had this fire happened in the middle of the night. We could have had fatalities. Because the way that building is, that building's condemned. It's gonna have to probably come down. Gary's, I'm sure Gary could speak to that better than I could, but if you drive by it, we really dodged the bullet, with that fire. And so, I just wanna, please thank your departments for me, for helping. So, all right, so is there any other items that the board would like to discuss? No? Okay. Is there any public comment on items? Yes.
Mike Nielsen, 17 Howerson Road. Want to go back to the speeding issue on Mailer Avenue. Like you had said, Ms. Scott, that there are some of us that have written scoofers. I have wrote to him. I'm asking him for a sit-down meeting with you guys and us, because I believe you guys are stonewalling us. Really, because you keep saying data, we gave you data, the engineer study was done. You said it was too expensive. We gave you paperwork to show you where you can buy those signs at half the price. Then you came back and said one sign. If you read the engineering study, it says signs with an S. So more than one, okay? You don't want us to come down to policing the road ourselves, because it can be done. You don't want it to come down to that, because as of last week, there was a car on that road speeding 40, 50 miles an hour. By the time I got out there with my camera to take a picture of it, it was gone. Because if I get a picture of it, I'll find out who it is, I'm going to contact the police chief, and we're both going to go over there and see this guy.
We're not gonna do that. actually.
No, we're not.
Okay?
You're not-
Maybe you won't.
No, I
Anyway,
won't.
so it's coming down to that, so I'm hoping that you guys are going to act on this and get it done.
Yeah,
Get
we're
it
not
done.
going to support vigilanteism on Mailer
I'm
Avenue.
not saying that either. I'm just trying to give you a for instance. Okay, take it whichever way you want, because I'm getting tired of coming here all the time. I didn't make it last week. There was a lot of banter go back and forth. Let's be civil, let's get it done. The safety of our kids, the people that live on that road. Okay, we keep putting it off. Now you want more data. Now you want to talk to the school system. What happened about everything going in parallel with the paperwork that went to the state and to the county? That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Alberto Gilman. I live at 3 Cathy Court. My family's property is adjacent to the intersection of Beeks Road and Orrs Mill Road. Before I start with my statement, I would just like to present to the town board and into the record a petition that was signed by residents that live on Beeks Road, Cathy Court, and the adjacent streets. There's over 58 signatures here on this document. If the board would be allowed, I'd like to present that to the town clerk to put this into the record.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, so I have prepared a brief statement tonight that I would like to read, if that's all right with the board.
Sure.
So again, my name is Alberto Gilman. I live at 3 Cathy Court. For those unaware, on Saturday, May 14th, there was a two-car collision that occurred at the intersection of Beeks and Orrs Mill Road. It happened right in front of our family property. From what we visually saw, there was no loss of life. However, there was a medical transport, and another driver was inspected for injuries, which was believed to be minor. We did see Cornwall Ambulance Corps come out, New Windsor, Cornwall Police, and the fire department, and they were able to assist and be able to resolve the situation. I stand before you today as a concerned resident of Cornwall to request a traffic study and safety remediation for that section of road being Beeks and Orrs Mill Road. Several concerns that I would like to make the board aware of is the fact that drivers along Orrs Mill Road do speed excessively on that road. I actually spoke to a neighbor while I was collecting signatures, and I was made aware that that section of road actually used to be a 55-mile-per-hour strip of road and was reduced to a 45. Other concerns that I do have is that people who either enter Beeks Road or exit Beeks Road do also drive off that road excessively, and we do hear the screeches of their tires constantly throughout the morning, into the afternoon, and even to the late night. Also, too, drivers who do try to exit off of Beeks Road do have a difficulty looking to the left because of the blind spot on that section of the corner. Sometimes during the wintertime, plows do pile up the snow on that corner, which is a visual difficulty, as well as cutting the grass during the summertime is also a visual difficulty. For drivers who do speed along Beeks Road, the strip of Beeks Road is listed as a 30 mile per hour, but they do definitely drive over that speed limit. And for some of my neighbors who are with me here tonight, some of them who are parents who have young children, as well as other residents on Beeks Road, they have children as well, and there is new development coming in. That being said, as you had suggested, or you had mentioned, Mr. Supervisor, that there were no reported deaths to your knowledge. However, my father, who is here with me tonight, has actually said to me in our conversations about this topic that there were reports of deaths reported in the Cornwall Local years ago, but I was too young to remember them. With all that being said, I have lived in that neighborhood for a very long time. And like I said, most of my neighbors now have young children, and we want to keep our neighborhood safe, not only on Cathy Court, but for all of Beeks Road and the additional streets, to keep our neighborhood safe, to keep our kids safe. And we would just like to see something done about this intersection. And as I've seen across here, you also share that same concern. So again, I ask for a traffic safety study and some sort of safety remediation for Beeks and Orrs Mill Road. Thank you.
Yes.
Jeremy Schlegel, 123 Mailer Avenue. Mr. Supervisor, members of the board, thank you again for all your progress with regard to the Mailer Avenue discussion. There's a lot of money exchanged in hands tonight and a lot of resolutions. So I'm really seeing a lot of action, but the problem is we're not seeing it on our road. My question is, sir, when will the sign be ordered, the solar sign that was authorized, and when is the plan for it to be installed on Mailer Avenue?
That should have already been ordered. I don't believe that we've received it yet. If we
It
have,
was ordered the following morning after you authorized it.
Yeah, I mean, look,
We don't have a delivery date. As soon as he has a delivery date, we'll get it.
Excellent.
There's national
Yes.
shortage of everything.
Yep. So, sir, really, going back to the very beginning, what we need on Mailer Avenue is two things, not just data and collection, but we need deterrence. So this is where the discussion of the speed tables has come from. So while we did put a lot of stock in the reduction of the speed, we know from the engineer that lowering the speed does not reduce operating speeds on Mailer Avenue. So it was the free option. It was the easy one to pursue at first. We were hoping together, but that's not going to solve the problem. Right? So I'm hearing a lot of language in last week's board session and this week that you're ready to move on. So are we. But we need to finish phase one where there's 2 signs put up on Mailer Avenue. Mr. Nielsen mentioned 50% savings on these signs. We just need to get them both in so that we can collect this data. You have an offer tonight on how to do it, but again, I'm seeing a lot of money exchange hands that isn't coming into the Mailer Avenue side. So I appreciate, sir, your data-driven discussions of last time. I agree. I use data every day in my job, but here's the problem. The data from the New York State denial, it does not mean there's not a speeding issue. It's actually the opposite. It means that not enough cars were going slow enough to lower the speed, right? It's the opposite. So the 85th percentile is set on Mailer Avenue based on how 85% of the cars go down the road. So if we were to follow that logic, we should put a request in front of the state to raise the speed on Mailer Avenue. All right, I'm not making this up, please, you can check with the engineer. So the data hasn't changed. 60 residents as well have signed a petition. At peak speed, 1 in 3 cars is exceeding the speed limit. This is based off of the April 1st through 7th data that was gained from the sign. All right. Peak speeds during the Collier study exceeded 40 miles per hour, some upwards of 50 miles per hour. They had to throw that data out because it wasn't many cars that were going that fast. But sir, what I'm asking members of the board is that data is both quantitative and qualitative. Remarks made at the last meeting indicated that we were throwing out the voices of the Mailer Avenue team in view of only the qualitative data. I ask that you not do that. We're not making this up. We wouldn't be here since September if we were making this up. So the last thing is the fix is on us. It's not on Senator Skoufis. He's not going to fix our problem for us. Small town problems are fixed by small town boards, and I trust that you're going to continue doing that. My question is, sir and board, what is the next step for moving for a purchase of the second sign? What is the next step for moving toward a public session for speed tables? You mentioned it's important to gather public input. The engineers mentioned that a public session is required to do that. And then third, I did some additional research regarding the speed tables. Permanent speed tables are not the only option. So if we're concerned about things like weather, snow removal, drainage. We don't have to kick over $10,000 to Colliers to tell us where to put these. We simply have to put in a temporary speed table that can be purchased for $7,000. So there are options that are not in the engineer's report as we continue to partner together. I ask that you help us continue to look at those.
Thank you. Yes.
Just one thing for clarification. You had talked about, tonight about getting together with, the school district, the bus company, et cetera, et cetera. My concern, Mr. Wojciechowski, is that when we started this conversation way back when, we asked you to reach out to the school district, especially to the bus company, because we've told you that it's the buses that are also speeding, with or without children. I think that's a violation of their contract. And good mentorship of bus drivers for the sake of the children that are on there. So I'm concerned, and I'm a little upset because you're saying something that we've told you months ago. So now all of a sudden, you're saying that now you have to contact the school district and the bus company. We've already said that, and so I'm just hearing words that we already spoke months to almost a year ago. So I just feel like we're talking to deaf ears. And I think, like I said last week, I think we're just waiting for someone to either get seriously injured or killed. We've all told you the stories. I have told you my stories about standing out there and playing road guard. I don't need to be standing in the middle of the road. And I almost got hit yesterday, my dog and I, walking across the street. Mallard Avenue with the sidewalk is not that wide. The car that was coming up from Willow area to Mallard down towards Academy, I looked both ways like we're supposed to. There was no car coming up. It was when they started coming up the hill, they stopped about where the end of the stairway is, right out here from hitting me. Yes, I froze, and because they surprised me, and at the speed they were going. So the reason why you don't have all this data about accidents, people getting hit, vehicular accidents or whatever, bicycles, strollers, is because we, the residents, are being diligent and we are protecting ourselves. We need the town to help protect us as well. And I know it's not just Mallard, but we have been going at this for over a year. We were promised some things, things were said, and now here we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy?
Thank you, Supervisor. Board, Randy Clark, 286 Main Street, Cornwall. First item, just want to touch base on is the ethics reform 15. I think that's a great idea. I saw it was not tonight when I was getting some information. Clicked on it, didn't go anywhere, so I'm glad hopefully tomorrow, the next day after, it'll actually lead somewhere.
Yeah, they just haven't been able to upload the documents yet. But
Item 13, the set public hearing for the dark room. I'm confused. Did we not move to set the public hearing? My understanding was it was just a motion to set the public hearing. You could keep it open if you wanted to, but it was just a step to help speed him along to get things moving and continue it moving. So that kind of just died.
Well, no, it didn't die. I mean, look, my preference would have been to act on that tonight, but the board
Could you have
had,
called
the board
a
had,
vote
yeah,
for
but
that and move on it? I mean, it just seems like one person interfered with the whole process. That's the takeout here.
Well, the whole idea, if I could just say real quick, this idea of speeding things along, we
It's been
have
2 years.
zoning regulations, we have zoning codes, we have a process, and I just find it incredulous that
No, it's not a crisis, that's a problem.
you're just gonna speed it along.
When you have a business
That's not the way
owner-
it works, no.
Exactly, because council informs you that anything you want and concern to put in writing.
I will, yeah.
And the public could come to a public meeting, and you would pick up some ideas from the public of what needed to be addressed too. But it'd be one of the honey-do list things crossed off with the business owner who's been trying to do this for 2 years. This board was elected and ran on being user-friendly for the business community. Many things here not only are not business-friendly, they're not public-friendly. You just keep kicking things down. So I didn't understand why a vote wasn't called for the public hearing. There were 4 votes up there. And last but not least, again, kicking things down the road. Item 1, Greater Cornwall Chamber of Commerce. I just want to read off a few things of why the Chamber is extremely important to the community, and what they're asking for from the ARP funds, I think, is very realistic. Many people don't realize they're responsible for the spooktacular, the winter festivities, tree lighting, the horse-drawn carriages. Something simple as the mud nits. They run over $2,000 a year that the Chamber supports. Music in the park. Although they're not doing it this year or the last year, they were the ones that brought it back because it was dropped from a budget item back in 2003, 2004. But they were the ones that rejuvenated it and brought it back. And never got any thanks for it. Shred Day, coming up in June. Chamber was the first group to start that, and they still help participate in it. Scholarships, local students. 4th of July booklet. I understand this year there is no funds available to support the 4th of July booklet. They've been doing that for over 20 years. How about the welcome signs to Cornwall? They're responsible for updating and maintaining them. So if you looked at the last 20 years of approximately $20,000 a year maintaining all of these functions, that's over $400,000 that the Chamber puts back into the community. Asking for $20,000 to help them get through COVID, a reduced membership, I really don't think is a 2 to 3 month process to review. So hopefully you will address it in June and favorably award them whatever funds out of the ARP, which is what the ARP fund was designed to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Eileen?
Me?
Yeah, Rich.
Eileen Hartman, I'm Vice President of the Cornwall Chamber. The one thing about speedy answers to whatever, it is so difficult for businesses to move forward and to come to this town. I was just at an economic development thing for the county, and people ask me, you know, realtors don't even bring prospective people to this town to see things because we have a reputation about being too difficult to do business in. Okay, I don't know where this man waiting two years to move this process forward is considered fast tracking it. I've been a small business owner for over 25 years. Okay, when we wake up every day, we think about what's going on, whether we're doing well or not. During COVID, we woke up and wanted to smother ourselves with a pillow. Okay, that's what most of our members went through. Okay, this man is trying to do something for the town. He's taking care of the parking issue. He dealt with the school. He's going to rent their parking spots and stuff. This isn't going to be something that goes on every day. But the delay, it's just like, well, it's just one more month down the road. It's not one more month down the road. What you're asking for is now to just even schedule the public hearing is 1 month down the road, which then is what? Another month down the road for the hearing to happen? And then it's ridiculous to try to get a small business open like that. Okay, we don't have funds like that. There's a couple of businesses in town that have deep pockets and were able to withstand the 9 months it took them to get open. Most people can't do that. And it's ridiculous. I'm sorry, it is. And as business owners, this is what we sit in our meetings and we talk about on how we can help them get things done. And I'm sorry, you guys have to move faster. And I don't mean speed the process along. Actually do the process is what I'm talking about.
Thank you. Sir in the back.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jerome Gilman. I'm 3 Kathy Court. I just wanted to add a couple of some additional information concerning item 19 on the traffic study. And that is, the first one is, I know that the data is very important that you collect to see how many accidents. My property sits right at the corner of the intersection of Beeks and Orrs Mill Road. And what you may not realize is, yes, we've had a lot of accidents, some very, very serious, including fatalities. I've lived here 30 years. But what you don't know is that there are many accidents where the police do not respond, where the drivers themselves manage whatever fender bender or something like that that occurs at that intersection, and there are quite a few of them. So I think if a study is to be done, something has to be done to include these accidents that are occurring that are actually not reported to the police as well. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. If there's no further public comments, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
From
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.